Hi, my name is Maxym Martineau, and I am the young adult fantasy author of Kingdom of Exiles, which you can see behind me. It features Lena, the main female character on the cover, which I absolutely adore. And if you kind of can sneak a little peek over here, this is book 2 in the series called The Frozen Prince, with the other main character, Nock, on the cover. I'm so excited that you decided to join me today, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about my book, the inspiration behind it, and maybe give you a little teaser into book 2 without spoilers, because this is a 6-book series, and you really need to start at the beginning because they're sequential. And why wouldn't you want to start at the beginning? Now's the time to get invested in the characters and the plots because, as I said, 6 books worth of content. Kingdom of Exiles features Lena, who is a beast charmer. And in that world, that means she has the ability to tame magical creatures, which she can then store in an alternate realm, kind of like a sanctuary where they just get to live out their days free and happy. And then if she ever needs their help or their assistance, she can call on them and they will come to her aid. Now, Lena was wrongly exiled from her community for a crime she did not commit. And so she's forced to sell her creatures on the black market in order to survive. It's very heartbreaking work for her. She tries her best to only give creatures to people that she deems fit, whether she thinks the creature can outsmart that person or if they're just a nice person and they deserve a creature of a certain caliber, and then she'll go ahead and sell them to them. But of course, this activity is still considered illegal in the eyes of her people. So when they find out she's doing this, even though she has no other means for work, they place a bounty on her head, which causes Nock, the other main male character, to enter the story. And he is the leader of an assassin's guild called Kruer, and every assassin who's a member of this guild is actually undead. They died and then they were raised and have the ability to walk with the shadows and control them for weapons and like sneaky kind of attacks and all the kind of stuff you'd expect an assassin with magical powers to be able to do. In addition, these assassins are kind of viewed as unsavory in the eyes of the royal family, so they too are exiled, hence the title Kingdom of Exiles, because there are so many different types of exiled people in this story. And in order to survive, they tend to take bounties that are a little bit dangerous in nature, or perhaps they're a hit or a contract from the royal family that they'd rather execute on the down low than be associated with the hit. So they get by through those kind of bounties and payments. And of course, Nock sees Lena's bounty, which is pretty hefty, as an opportunity to continue to provide for his family and all the members of Kruer. So he accepts it, but Lena comes with a bargain of her own. She shows up on his doorstep and says, in exchange for the bounty on my life, I will give you 4 magical creatures. Now, this is completely unheard of. Charmers don't just give away magical creatures. In fact, as I mentioned, it's illegal for them to sell them, so it's even harder to just go out and buy one if you wanted one. You have to be friends with the charmer for a really long time, and then they have to deem you worthy before they will just gift you a magical beast. So of course, Nock's eyes light up, this is a huge opportunity. And he's got a curse of his own he has to deal with that he gained from his former living life, and it carried with him in his undead life. So he'd do anything to get rid of this curse. It keeps him from, I will say, loving fully, and he has to keep everyone at arm's length. And so why not? If he can find a way to get rid of this as well as provide for his family, because these creatures are rare and powerful and strong, then he's going to do so. He barters with her, and in exchange for the contract on her head, he asks for, or demands rather, 4 magical creatures, 1 for him and each of his closest friends. And Lena, hesitantly, but really she has no other option, agrees. She knows she can't overpower them. She can't outmaneuver them. They can walk with the shadows and kind of just pop up behind her and kill her. So she's kind of at their beck and call. But what she is not letting on is that she also needs something from the assassins in order to tame a creature that she wants to prove her innocence to her people. So the rest of the book continues with Nock, Lena, and his 3 closest friends on this magical beast hunt across the country, as both Nock and Lena are trying to outmaneuver each other to get what they want from each other. Because in the back of Nock's mind, he's still planning on capitalizing on the bounty. He's gonna get the beast, get the contract, make out for everyone in his family, not just his closest friends. But as close proximity tends to do, feelings start to develop and they start to question what's right and wrong and the truth behind her bounty and why her people are so focused on removing her from the picture. And then what is Nock's curse? Like, why is it so hard for him to get rid of? Like, what is it? I really hope y'all like those kind of epic journey vibes, because that's what goes on here. They literally go on a beast hunt, and there are so many beasts. There are at least 25, roughly, I want to say, in the first book alone. And the really cool thing is every beast that's mentioned in the book actually appears in the bestiary, which on Lena is a necklace that she wears around her neck, but in the actual book itself, there's an appendix at the back that has a pronunciation guide, taming requirements, descriptions, and even some artist renditions of a few of the beasts in the book, which is really cool because then you get the visual aspect of what I'm envisioning when I write it, as well as just like all the different requirements and the magic system that goes into taming each individual creature. And the really cool thing is, as this series continues, the bestiary will continue to update. So you'll have tons of back matter information every time you go into a new book with new creatures. And of course, there's front matter stuff, like a map of the world, because it's a fantasy book, and who doesn't like a good map, myself included. So yeah, there's just a ton of stuff in this book, and I really, really enjoyed writing it. You know, I was very inspired by Pokemon. I mean, she goes out and tames rare magical creatures. It's very similar in that respect. I'm also very inspired by video games. And so like you'll get like Final Fantasy vibes, Assassin's Creed vibes. Like, I just love all video games and anime. Huge, huge hard eyes for anime. Another thing that inspired me for my series is I actually started out my schooling when I was at university as an animal behaviorist. I always loved to write stories. I was writing from the time I was like 5 years old, but I also just really had this deep love for animals. So I thought it would be really cool to sort of blend those two. And in order to do that, like, I could write anywhere, but I couldn't just go out and study large cats without a degree or without the knowledge set for it. So I decided to go to school for it. And of course did fall in love with large cats, as I expected. But in the end, elected to still switch majors to English and continue to write and just sort of lean on some of that knowledge that I discovered during my first 2 years. And you'll definitely see that reflected a little bit in the book, because there are 10 legendary feline creatures that are very similar to like the large cats you might find in our world. So there's some inspiration there for sure. In addition to that, I'm a very lucid dreamer. I struggled with some very vivid nightmares as a kid, and I used writing as a way to sort of exercise those thoughts. And eventually it got to the point where I really enjoyed dreaming. I really looked forward to dreaming, because 9 times out of 10 my dreams tend to be fantastical in nature, and I would get to meet really cool people and listen to their stories and see these worlds that you don't see anywhere else. And I just started writing about them, and that's basically how Kingdom of Exiles came to be. Is I actually had a dream where I sat down and talked to Nock, and he just unloaded his whole life story on me. And then Lena was sort of a combination of a couple other dreams and some inspiration from my world and just my love of animals kind of all meshed together. But Nock very much was this person in my dream who came to me and told me his story, which comes into play more in book 2. Book 2 is a lot about him and his backstory and how he got to be where he is in Kingdom of Exiles. So I won't spoil it too much. But I really, really, really look forward to y'all reading, especially book 2. I don't have a lot else to add about my series without sort of giving away too much, and I really, really don't want to do that, because I don't want to take that away from you as the reader who gets to experience it for the first time. But I really hope you enjoy it. There's so much to sort of digest and to prepare yourself for, because it is a longer series. And there's a whole bunch of other like cool, fun things you can do if you're like gonna follow me on social media. My handle is @Maxym McKay, that's MAXYM and that's for Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. As well as if you go to my website, which is maxymmartineau.com, you can sign up for my newsletter or see some of those extra elements that I mentioned earlier, like the map and some beast renditions and artwork. And then as well as I've also included some playlists for my series, so you can really get into the vibe that I'm trying to portray when I'm writing the books. The songs and how they line up with some of the characters and the scenes. It's one of my favorite things to do. So if you want a little bit of extra content, be sure to check out those places. And then of course, like I said, follow me on social media. I do giveaways whenever I can. And I really just love interacting with my readers. There's so much out there to read, and I'm so humbled that you choose to spend your hours and your time with my books, and it means so, so much to me. So at the end of the day, I do write because it brings me joy, but once the book is out there, it's for you, and I want you to be happy, and I want you to enjoy it, and I want to do whatever I can to make that possible. And I really hope you enjoy my series, and I hope I've inspired you to maybe pick up Kingdom of Exiles. So that's all for today, but thanks so much.